with us.
Hey guys, President on the EXP Realty, part of the Johnson Group here in beautiful Savannah, Georgia, and I'm joined by my co-host Brandon Giebler from Next Move. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
You know, doing my thing, living the life. Not living the dream, but it's okay. We're getting there.
Everybody keeps telling me they're living the dream, and I'm like,
well, then wake up.
I know exactly what's going on.
What dream are you dreaming?
How was your weekend?
I mean, it was full of clean outs and controversies and fixings and everything. It was a lot, but it was fun. I enjoy what I do.
That's good.
Did you get into anything exciting this weekend?
Yeah, I showed some houses. We didn't find the right one, but we're going to find it, so I'm very excited about it. They're very motivated, so I know we're going to get something under contract here really soon. But excited today. This is going to be a special one for the First District of Georgia. We're gonna be joined by Dr. Krista Penn. And just before we get started, I just want everybody to know our show is about connecting you with the decision makers or soon to be decision makers or candidates, so you know who you're voting for and why, what they stand for all that stuff. And I'm really excited to have everybody here. So without further ado.
All right, everyone. So we've got a great conversation set up for you tonight. We are going to be joined by Dr. Krista Penn. She's a Navy commander, healthcare executive, and now a candidate running for Congress here at Georgia 1st District. Yeah, that's our district, by the way, if you don't know. She spent decades serving both in the military and in the healthcare field, and now she is stepping into the political arena to represent coastal Georgia and Washington. Oh, the big boys. So this is a big move and a big race. So tonight we're going to dive into her background, why she decided to run, and what she believes the future should look like for our region. Says, and as always, we enjoy the comments and the questions. So please, if you got a question, put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat.
Sure. So let's get Krista on. Here we go.
Well,
welcome, Dr. Penn. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing great.
Great. Good. So for the people here in Savannah that don't know you very well, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to run for Congress?
Yes. Well, I'm not a politician. I'm a nurse by background. I've served, as you mentioned, for over 20 years. I've served my patients and made sure that they have received all the care that they need. And for over 20 years, I've also served as an officer in the United States Navy. I have been mentioning to you off camera before about how I've served in the reserves, not active duty, but was activated and deployed to Afghanistan in 2010 to 2011. I currently serve as the Executive Director of Cardiovascular and Imaging Services for Southeast Georgia Health System out of Brunswick. That's our main campus. And then we have a small hospital down in Camden County as well. So, and I live in Savannah. So I spend a lot of time driving up and down the 95 and getting rocks to my windshield, but it's all worth it because I really love caring for people and really love being a nurse. However, over the last several years, I have been noticing a disconnect between leaders up in Washington and the people back in their districts, and really started to think about running for a political office back in around August 30th, 2021. And that's an important date because that's the day that we pulled out of Afghanistan. And after serving there and being witness to a lot of death and tragedy during that time, that really bothered me when that happened. And I know that we left people behind, and people that we worked very closely with. Some of them we don't know if they're still alive. Some of them we know that they're over there and they're in hiding right now. And nobody was really held accountable for that. And so then, seeing also that, people here in the first district were feeling like they were being forgotten by our leaders up in Washington. And then Buddy Carter's seat came open and available, and I saw that that was an opportunity. I feel called to serve. I've served as a nurse. I've served our country in the military, and now feeling called to serve in this different role. So I think we don't need more career politicians going up to Washington, or sons carrying on family legacy. I think that we need people that understand what the people back here in the first district are really facing every day. And I have broad real life experience that I believe sets me up to be the best candidate. I know healthcare because I've worked in it for 20 years. I understand law enforcement and border issues because I've been married to my husband for 24 of the 27 years that he served, thank you, as either for U.S. Border Patrol or as a special agent for Homeland Security. I understand the daily struggles that small business owners face because I used to be a small business owner, and I had to close my business during the pandemic because of supply chain issues, and I couldn't compete with Chinese prices. And then I obviously understand military and veteran issues because I have served and because I held the hands of our wounded and our dying service members as their blood ran off their beds over in Afghanistan.
Well, yeah, when you say left Afghanistan, are you talking about the third party nationals that were helping over there, or who are you talking about? Who got left behind? There's no accountability.
Well, we did leave some American citizens behind, but we also left Afghan nationals that committed and sacrificed, risked their lives to help us while we were over there. We had translators, we had lots of personnel that came and actually worked on the base, made our food, served our food. And there were good people that worked with us and wanted to see change and were happy that we were there. And unfortunately, those people were left there, and we don't know what happened to some of them, and know that they were already at risk for helping us.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's plenty of stories like that in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's awful. I know that we worked with a lot of translators at the battalion brigade level, translators, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's very unfortunate. Let me catch up in the chat here real quick. So, Big Cat Novak says US. Jennifer Johnson says hello. The Savvy Tourist says thumbs up. Josh Giebler says hello. And then, all right, let's get to the Jennifer. I'm going to get your question next. Just hold tight. But let's get to this first video. Then Brandon's going to ask his questions. Here we go.
I just went to the grocery store, bought 10 items, and it was $80 freaking already. I literally have $10 left on my account. So a little backstory. I got laid off from my job a month ago, and I've been applying for jobs months before I got laid off. Sent out hundreds of resumes already. Applied to hundreds of jobs on the internet, remote and on-site. Tailored my resume to every position that I applied using ChatGPT. Went to only a few interviews and still nothing. Like, what's going on with America right now? Like, it's so freaking hard to live here. Like, I'm gonna stay positive. I'm gonna keep applying for jobs. I'm gonna keep showing up. But man, my bills are not going to wait.
It's so hard to live here. So hard to live here. So obviously one of those things that we're hearing constantly from families and small business owners is affordability. The groceries, the insurance, the housing. So what do you see as the biggest driver of the rising costs, and what can be realistically done at the federal level?
Well, I definitely think that inflation has a huge part to do with that. And in order to drive inflation down at the federal level, we need to be, cutting waste. We need to be spending responsibly at the federal level. We need to be looking at supply chain issues and how we can break down barriers. And then more locally, eliminating red tape for small businesses so that they can be successful. And that will help drive down prices as well. We need to support local farmers so that they can produce food and help drive down the cost of things like groceries as well. So.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. So, make it better for small business. Really been taking a hit over the head with, like you had said about the pandemic, and then go straight into tariffs and just causing all these problems. So, getting the small business owner back on their feet is definitely something we need to do.
You get punished for pursuing the American dream.
Right. And another thing, I was just talking to somebody who lives in the 1st District today. One of the things that I think we don't realize in our region can significantly impact small business owners is the weather and hurricanes. And she used to own a food truck business, and she had to shut it down with the last hurricane because she said she had to shut down for 3 weeks. And just that 3 weeks, she was never able to recover from that. And she tried to get money from FEMA, but it wasn't enough. And so even looking at things like that, how can we support small businesses through whether it's weather, environmental crisis, or things like that, so that they can get back on their feet and help contribute to the economy and driving down inflation and costs.
Well, how would we do? I mean, how could the federal government do anything about natural disasters that shut down small businesses? Like, what could possibly be done?
Well, I don't think that they have that type of control over the weather, but I do believe that they can incentivize or help, just do something to help small businesses get back on their feet, to maybe bridge that gap. Like that woman said, she really only would have probably needed additional assistance for a period of about 3 weeks to get her through and back up and running. But unfortunately, she didn't have that, and she was never able to recover.
3 weeks, lost her business in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So tough. All right, so back to the chat. So Jennifer Johnson says, so her question is, do you take RPAC money, AI money, or dark money?
No. All the money that I have taken has been from, the hardworking people from the 1st District. I am true grassroots, and I am not endorsed by the political elite, and I am not funded by special interests. And I'm not interested in going to Washington to line my pockets like other people have. I really, truly believe in serving others and serving the people of this district.
Nice. Love that answer. All right. Before we get to the next question, let's get another video. Here we go.
Out to, because healthcare is going to get a lot more expensive.
What I'm currently paying $240 every 2 weeks for is going up to $709 every 2 weeks.
People are noticing how much their premiums are going up, and they're not happy.
Last year, for me, it would have been $100 to $120 a month. I'm looking at the health premiums for this next open enrollment. $400. Just for me, no spouse, no kids.
So why are...
Oh. Jeez Louise. Have some kids, get married. I don't know, girl. They give discounts for a bundle deal. So given all of your experience working in the hospital systems, what do you think most politicians misunderstand about the whole healthcare cost? And what real solutions do you believe can actually help the struggling rural hospitals across Georgia?
Well, I think that one of the ways that we can drive the cost of healthcare down is to really start focusing on preventative care. I think that's something that, at least where I work, we're really starting to understand that. And if we can keep people out of the hospital to begin with, then we can help drive down the cost of care. So I think preventative care is very important, and that's where healthcare organizations need to start shifting their focus. As far as rural communities, I mean, that's a risk too. If they don't have access to care, then they're at risk for, that having to utilize higher cost care coming into the emergency rooms and then being admitted. They usually tend to wait longer because they live further away. So we need to find solutions that help get them access to care. So whether it's things like telehealth or looking at opportunities for transportation to get them to where they need to go, things like that provide them easy access so that they're not waiting until they're so sick that now they are relying on that more expensive healthcare, being admitted for critical issues and being admitted for long term.
A lot of the healthcare issues come from the food we serve.
Well, that too. I mean, that's part of. I think that's everything that we need to look at as far as preventative care is. It's easy to grab the canned food, but that's packed full of sodium, and that leads to high blood pressure and congestive heart failure and problems like cardiac disease. And so, all the processed food. So again, I think going back to things like supporting local farmers so that there's more healthy options, driving down the cost of groceries so that people can afford to eat healthier, is going to contribute to that preventative care.
I always thought canned vegetables were good. They're vegetables, right? Not
No.
Yeah, they
No.
can be dangerous.
Just sitting in the aluminum can is not good for you.
Ah, man. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so from Josh, he says, if you win the race, what does success look like after your first 2 years?
Well, I think success looks like, we're seeing that inflation come down. We're seeing that families can actually afford to buy a home and they're not having to rent and paying somebody else's mortgage and being at risk for being, evicted or not being able to pay their rent and then being displaced. I think it looks like we can afford a bag of groceries, and not have it break the bank, and healthy food at that as well. I think that our communities will feel safer, and the illegal immigration contributes to that unaffordability as well, because it costs our federal, our state, and our local governments $150 billion a year. Yeah, so
That's a sugar daddy I'd like to have.
that's money that could be, spent on improving life for our American citizens.
Okay.
That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely is. Let's come back to I'm going to catch up in the chat real quick. So they're starting to come in right now. So Joshua said, who controls the weather? Jennifer says they could put insurance companies in their place. And awesome. I'm making sure no one takes that money, gets my vote. All right. And then we're going to say, Uma here said, I hear you talking about business. What do you do for the residents?
What do I do?
If there's a natural disaster.
For the residents?
Yeah, I guess that's what she's asking.
Oh, not just small businesses, I'm assuming that's what she's referring to. Well, again, I think that, FEMA is important, and we want to make sure that we get people back on their feet, and we want to make sure that people that lost their homes aren't displaced for extended periods of time, because if they don't have a home to live in and a place to lay their head where they feel safe and comfortable, then they can't focus on getting to their job and caring for their families. And those are all important things, especially because they help contribute to our economy and getting the whole region back on its feet.
Okay. All right. The next video we're going to play is about data centers. Don't worry, guys. We're going to get to your questions in the chat. Do not worry.
New 2 million square foot data center facility. Facilities like this are being used to power things like ChatGPT and other AI tools that are becoming integrated into our daily life.
Data centers, going to be a very hot item.
This entire supercomputer is built to power Grok.
We see data centers as the most exciting asset class.
Meta is building a 2 gigawatt plus data center that is so large it would cover a significant part of Manhattan.
But data centers come with big costs. From light and noise pollution to the environmental impacts, to the potential rising costs of energy bills, these facilities put extraordinary demand on the power grid and require entirely new infrastructure.
Show me again.
They should be responsible for that, not us.
Jeez Louise. So data center episode number 732. So some see data centers as an economic opportunity, while others are concerned about the environmental impacts, the power usage, infrastructure strains, and the transparency of the data center. How should companies' competing concerns be balanced?
Well, I think AI is here to stay. Pandora is out of the box, but AI is not the only thing that's being housed in data centers. And I work in healthcare, and I do know that our electronic medical records are housed in data centers. Ever since the Meaningful Use Act went into effect several years ago, requiring healthcare organizations to move to a digital format for medical records. The data closets in the hospitals, it couldn't maintain that capacity. I even remember sometimes you'd start smelling, like electrical burning, and maybe even see some smoke coming out of one of those data closets. So that was not sustainable for our healthcare organizations. And so a lot of that information does require data centers, unfortunately. Now, what we need to do is we need to develop these responsibly, and that means partnering with communities, being transparent, looking for more appropriate locations, not building them in people's backyards. And, I really liked what President Trump said in his State of the Union address, that the data centers really should either foot the bill for their energy supply or figure out how to build their own power supply. I think that that's a great idea, and I support that 100%. But really, doing a study of the environmental impact, the impact on the community, because this type of development doesn't bring 100, 400, 500 jobs into the community like some other economic development does, and they aren't required to participate in building like road infrastructure and things like that, because there's not a lot of traffic going to these data centers. And so really understanding what the impact is on the community and giving the people the opportunity to understand that and then voice their concerns. Now, this is really more of a local issue that they need to take up with their county commissioners and with their state legislature, because the state is the one that's offering tax incentives right now. And so they need to be having conversations with the state legislatures as well. But I do support Trump saying that the data centers need to supply or fund their own power bills.
I totally agree with you that they need to pay for their own way, and they need to put them in places where they're not around residents. But we're fighting that in our city, so that's why we have a show about it nearly every week.
But it's like all the trucks that they require to go in and out to build it destroys the road, but they don't need it afterwards.
Well, yeah, maybe they should be responsible for fixing the road after.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to go back to the comments here. Kimberly Cox. We have insurance. Even with it, my husband's treatment costs thousands and thousands. 1 year after his last treatment, we are still paying on it, and the credit card debt for supplies that were not covered. How could you help prevent these financial hardships?
Yes, well, I think even what Trump's doing now with brokering deals with for medication so that we're not paying more than what any other country across this world is paying for medication. Those are types of policies and things that I support as well. We need to drive down the cost of some of these medications. I see cancer medications that cost upwards of $60,000 per injection, and you're required to do 6 injections is crazy. I mean, people are mortgaging their homes and selling off half their goods just to be able to pay for healthcare. So definitely looking at opportunities to work with the drug companies to drive down the cost of medications and supplies as well.
Well, what could trigger they're making record number of money. I mean, like, I don't understand how it would be so hard to drive the prices down. What could we do as a federal government to drive down drug costs?
Well, put policies in place that control that, but I don't like to leave that to the federal government. I'd like to keep the federal government out of control. So I think, again, focusing on driving down other costs of care can help decrease those premiums eventually. So things like preventative care, keeping people out of the hospital. An overnight stay in a hospital bed is extremely expensive. So finding ways to get people out of the hospital faster, that's one of the things that we're looking at Southeast Georgia Health System is decreasing that length of stay, making sure that we're sending people home safely, but being more effective at evaluating and turning people around and then keeping them out of the hospital, keeping them from readmitting is significantly driving down the cost of care.
What would you say? There's people that say that there's so many administrators involved for every doctor. They have like 17, 18 administrators to go through the diagnoses that some of these people have, and then they get denied on insurance, and that's part of the cost driving up. Is that correct? Because you're in the health system. So can you help us understand? Like, because we get frustrated. Obviously, my wife, she's going through some stuff and then getting denied after the doctor has prescribed her something. Like, nah, you don't need that. Your doctor's wrong. Like, is that part of the problem?
Yeah, so there is a problem with denials, and so we do try to hire people that look at that and try to catch that before it ends up in a denial situation. We're constantly looking at those things, especially in cardiovascular and imaging services, to make sure that we're not even reaching the point of denial. And that does take proactive work as well. And not all healthcare organizations have invested in that, but I think, they're starting to. And part of it's also ensuring that there's documentation. So at the federal level, I think that we need to start, again, eliminating the red tape that makes it so difficult for some of these things to happen. And that's, I believe that we have become kind of overwhelmed. The doctors have become overwhelmed with having to spend so much time documenting specific verbiage to ensure that will be covered and not denied. But then they're spending so much time doing that they're not actually, providing good, high quality care for patients. And we want to make sure that that's happening. So if I were elected to Congress, then that's one of the focuses that I would have, is trying to minimize that, make sure that we're still providing safe care and that we have methods for documenting what we've done, but make it easier to prevent those denials, because that is definitely happening, and it's a combination of factors.
Okay. I didn't even think about it from your side as a doctor, like how frustrating that has to be for you.
Well, yeah, it's frustrating for our providers when they have to spend time and make sure they feel like they've, provided all of the appropriate information, and then we do get a denial and have to go back and try to figure out what more did they need or want, and it can be a cumbersome process.
They don't deny that money coming in every month, but they'll deny you when you need treatment.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. All right, we're gonna get, like I said, we're gonna get to your chat, but we'll play this video real quick, and then we'll get into the next question.
We've spent since 9/11 alone waging these wasteful regime change wars, how those wars have undermined our national security, and how they have strengthened terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So when we talk about a potential war with Iran, which is looking like we are walking very dangerously down that path, what I think is important for the American people to know is that a war with Iran would make the war in Iraq look like a cakewalk. The devastation and the cost would be far greater than anything we've ever experienced before.
Our interest, I think, very much is in not going to war with Iran, right? It would be a huge distraction of resources. It would be massively expensive to our country. And again, I'm not saying we stick ourselves into the Middle East and start a war here, but like we recognize, okay, Israelis, Gulf Arab states don't like Iran. So let the Israelis and the Gulf Arab states provide the counterbalance to Iran. America doesn't have to constantly police every region of the world. We should empower people to police their own regions of the world, right? And one, we would save a lot of money. Two, we'd save a lot of focus. But unfortunately, I think Harris, she's got this weird thing where I actually think she kind of likes war. Maybe she feels like a tough guy about it. Yeah. I don't know why it is. And they seem to be sort of sleepwalking us into war with Iran. It's like the dumbest of all possible worlds.
I've been a recovering neocon for 6 years now. Like the foolishness with which we ricocheted around the world, intervening, think it was in our best interest, when really we just overturned the table and created something worse in almost every single scenario, has led to almost, I mean, the hubris of the Pentagon is that they want to now tell other countries how to do counterinsurgency based on what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, are you kidding me? So you really have learned nothing. Okay, nothing. So yeah, you're right. That the trust there that our political leaders or our generals would have our best interests in mind is totally broken.
I love his, so you learn nothing. Just my favorite part. I'm a child, it's okay. So given the recent U.S. military action involving Iran, yay, where do you stand on the Americans' role in this conflict? And what do you believe Congress's responsibility should be when it comes to authorizing and overseeing the military engagement?
Well, it's my understanding that the intel was indicating that Iran would have a nuclear weapon within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So that says to me that it's no longer in the best interest of leaving it to other countries in that region to police or manage that. Now that's a potential threat against us. Not only that, but I have personally seen firsthand the devastation of Iran's involvement in, they say it, death to America. And when I was in Afghanistan, the IED components and the rockets that we were rocketed with on a daily basis when I was over there were supplied by Iran. They wanted to harm us. So, and it sounds like they were ready to maybe do that again if they were going to have a nuclear weapon here in the next few weeks. So I believe that Trump acted because he was concerned about the safety of American citizens. And he does not need Congress's approval if he's going to go in and do something that's less than 60 days. However, if this does become prolonged, which I hope it doesn't, because I don't want us to end up in another prolonged war. I've seen, again, the devastation, and I'm sure that every veteran would agree with me. But if it does look like it's going to end up being prolonged in more than 60 days, then Congress does need to be involved.
Okay. No, I agree. And yeah, actually, this next question from the chat is probably going to sum up kind of what I'm saying, because I feel like, I went to Iraq 3 times for that war, looking for WMDs that didn't exist. And it's very frustrating to see this. It feels like we're playing that all over again. And my biggest concern is, like, we're $38 trillion in debt. And we're just launching missiles that are, you were in the military, you know how much stuff costs. These missiles are $100,000, if not $1 million a piece to bomb a country. So not only the financial impact, and like I said, the Uma here says, do you support Trump, and what about the current wars? As an Iraqi veteran, I'm talking to a lot of PTSD veterans who are going through bad episodes and don't want another 20-year war.
Yeah, no, I don't want war. I don't want a 6-month war. And definitely not another prolonged war, because we're still, they say that the suicide rate's 22 a day, but I think from research and what I've heard, it's probably closer to 44. And that's not okay. And we don't want to contribute to that anymore. So at this point, I am, trusting that Trump made the right decision based on intel that he had, and that he feels that he can wrap this up in less than 60 days. And I, hope that that's what happens here.
Okay, I hope so too. I mean, if we killed the Ayatollah, and I thought we got rid of the nuclear weapons in June of last year, is what I thought happened, is what they said. We obliterated it, and now we're back there. It's confusing for the people. I think everybody's like, what is happening right now? Like, it makes no sense. But I'm with you. I hope it doesn't last forever. So let's get back to this next video. Go one more video, and this is about what happened here recently.
That killed a school teacher. Investigators say ICE agents were chasing Oscar Vasquez Lopez when he ran into Linda Davis. Davis was a teacher at Hess K-8 school, and according to the Department of Homeland Security, agents tried to pull over Lopez when he sped away. Investigators say that then he ran into Davis. Now, Lopez faces several charges, including first-degree homicide by vehicle. The Department of Homeland Security says Lopez is from Guatemala and entered the United States illegally at an unknown time. A federal judge signed off on a final order of removal for him in 2024.
Oof. So that one hits close to home, obviously. So we obviously saw that tragic situation involving the ICE agents that has raised strong reactions in the community. How do you view immigration enforcement, officer safety, and balancing federal authority with local community concerns?
Well, I definitely think that the death of Dr. Linda Davis was a tragedy, and my thoughts and prayers are with her family. At the same time, I think we need to acknowledge that that the person that hit her, first of all, did not have a driver's license, so shouldn't have been driving in the first place, and should not have fled law enforcement. So he was violating laws on those two fronts, regardless of what his immigration status was. However, I support legal immigration. and the processes that we have in place now. I'm sure there's opportunity for improvement there. We could make it more efficient, and especially, I believe in work visas and things like that, but we need to enforce the law, and we can't pick and choose who we're going to enforce that with. We need to uphold the rule of law. And I back the blue because my husband has served for 27 years in law enforcement. And like I mentioned before, illegal immigration costs this country $150 billion a year. And that's contributing to, increased cost of healthcare and things like that. So, and the Trump administration is allowing these people to just go back to their country of origin and then, apply to come the right way, the legal way. And I 100% support legal immigration. But I do support, sending illegal immigrants back to their home of origin and having them come through the process the correct way. And if they've committed crimes and they're criminals, then no, we don't want them here in our country. And there's a lot of bad people that have come across the border when we had open borders, and it was easy for them to do that. My husband served 9 years on a child exploitation unit, putting hundreds of pedophiles behind bars, and there's a lot of criminal activity out there, unfortunately. And there's things that Immigration and Customs Enforcement does that I think the general public and even the media don't share, they don't realize. So when you talk about abolishing ICE or defunding ICE or doxing ICE agents, there are other divisions of ICE besides just the enforcement removal operations, and targeting criminals who take advantage of children is one of those areas, and that would be potentially abolished and defunded as well, and we don't want that.
I feel like the media is actually, it makes it worse and makes everyone scared, so they react, and then they probably shouldn't react, but we fall for the media, what they put out there. So
yeah, I mean, adulterated food, so contaminated food items coming from other countries, that's another area that ICE focuses on. So if those programs aren't in place, then we're at risk for eating things that could significantly harm us and our health.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I think they have an important job. My one question to you I find weird, and maybe since your husband is in law enforcement, he can kind of help me, or you guys had discussions about this before. Why are they wearing masks? Like, because police officers don't wear masks, and they're going into dangerous situations all the time, going against gangbangers across the country, and they're not wearing masks. So are they trained to wear masks in the ICE training centers, or why are they wearing masks?
No, I think that's personal preference that they feel is a form of protection of their identity. Particularly, I think those that have families and children, because a lot of them have received threats. They've received death threats. They've received threats against their families. Some of them have received phone calls that they know where their children go to school and they're going to go and kidnap their children. I mean, there's been some horrible things said to ICE agents. My husband doesn't believe in wearing a mask, and he is perfectly fine with me saying what he does. But that's because, he feels that he chose to do this. Like those of us that choose to serve in the military know that we're at risk for deployment. We don't want to go to war. We don't want to deploy, but we understand the risk that we're taking by serving.
Totally. Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, it's a choice. I did not know that. Obviously in the military, we know you don't have choices
You don't
like
have
that.
choices.
But just keep your face wide open. Well, or wear glasses. The one thing I had to do all the time was wear the eye protection.
Well, eye pro, yes, that's usually a requirement.
and my PT belt so that people can shoot me.
Yep, the glow belt to make sure that you don't get run over by somebody on base. Yeah.
All right, so we got a lot of people in the chat asking about the Epstein files, so I'm just going to ask it. Do you believe the survivors, and will you work to help release the files that the Congress already passed the bill that it needs to be released? So where do you stand on the Epstein files?
Well, again, after my husband served 9 years protecting children from pedophilia, I don't care who you are. Pedophilia should never be accepted, and you should be held accountable.
Totally agree.
I was about to be totes and approach. I was about to say. So have you watched the Erica Affair? Never mind.
You got
Keep
next
going with the questions.
Money?
No more questions from the chat?
Oh, there's plenty of questions from the chat, but ask your last question.
Okay. All right. So you signed a pledge supporting congressional term limits. So why do you believe that term limits are necessary?
Because I don't think that we should have career politicians in Congress. I mean, as you see, I think there's too much corruption. There's too many people that even if initially they didn't intend to go to Washington to line their pockets, that's
somehow it happened.
Ultimately what has ended up happening with some of them. And I think that you should go and have your opportunity to try to have an impact and make change, and then allow somebody else the opportunity to do that. And it really should be for the people, by the people. That it should be those of us that understand the struggles that the people back in our district suffer every day, and listening to them, and then going and being a voice to truly represent. As I've been traveling around the district, I've been telling people, I think one of the most important takeaways after listening to me, if there's one thing you remember, it's this, and that is that I don't believe that this seat belongs to Washington. I believe it belongs to the people.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That's a good t-shirt.
All right. Yeah, no, I agree. It belongs to the people. One thing I want to ask, and I think, this comes down to a lot of questions in here. I'm sick and tired of partisan politics. I can't stand it. So I would say that for the longest time, I identified as a Democrat. My wife was a Republican. For the longest time, yeah, we used to both watch Fox and Friends. This is in 2001. 2002, 2003, all the way till I went to the Iraq War. But I mean, it just seems like people just go up there to try to fight and just try to change what has already been changed that might be working, might not fix nothing. Everything is like we got to smash it and break it. I mean, as you know, Krista, when we went to basic training, you get people from all over the country: Texas, New York, California, Idaho, South Carolina, Georgia, with different religions, different backgrounds, different cultures. We get smashed together, and we have to learn how to work together to accomplish amazing, amazing things.
Right.
What do you plan on doing to bring this country back together? I mean, and bring these politicians to reach across the aisle and get something done. I feel like I'm really sick and tired of it. How do you plan on changing it?
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why Trump is, doing so many executive orders, because Congress isn't doing their job. They're not getting the job done. And so then he's having to just resort to all these executive orders. And I don't think that that's the ultimate solution either. So it would be great if Congress could come together and work together. And I think that's one of the things that makes me the best candidate. It's because my broad real life experience, my experience working in healthcare, where we have to work across multiple departments to come together and do what's best for our patients, and put aside our differences or our preferences, and work together to make care for our patients, high quality and successful and good outcomes for them, working with different personalities. I've overseen surgical services, so I've worked with surgeons that can be very difficult and complicated to work with, and other people across multi-disciplines. And like you said, I've served in the military too. In Afghanistan, we worked with people from all over the world, and we had to come together, and we didn't even all use the same metric system or call medications by the same name, but we figured out how to overcome those barriers and those obstacles. We had a 99% survival rate if they were able to get the service member to us from the front lines once they got them to us, because we figured out how to work so well together with that one mission in mind.
So I'm not sure what dignified transfer is. Do you know what is that? What's dignified transfer?
Oh, he's talking about when she's talking about when the troops came back, the fallen soldiers, like the 7 people that died in Iran, or the conflict, when they came back, the dignified transfers when they came back, and everybody's upset because Donald Trump was wearing a hat
that he sells for $50.
What I guess she wants to know what your stance is on Trump's
entrepreneur
attire during the dignified transfer.
So unfortunately, I didn't see that, so I don't want to comment until I have an opportunity to actually look at it and see for sure what the situation was.
I totally understand.
Fair.
We got another quote or another comment from Mikey Famine. Will she vote to impeach Trump for violating the Epstein Transparency Act?
Well, I believe that we need to hold people accountable for what's in the Epstein files. I would need to have more information before I can say for sure whether or not if there's any impeachable offense.
Like I've watched a lot of them, and everything's redacted, so I don't know.
Well, that's kind of the problem, Brandon.
I know. So I only see what's put out there, but everything that I've seen has 90% redacted, so I don't know. Can you read through the black markouts?
All right, so we're going to go to a little bit more through. A lot of these are about the Trump and dignified transfers. Are you a Trump supporter? I guess probably what everybody wants to know.
Yes, I support Trump.
USA.
All right.
I mean, I don't think that everybody has all the correct answers, no matter who you are. You know, there are some things that I don't necessarily agree with, but for the most part, I do, and I voted for him.
Okay. Well, one last question. What did we not ask you that you want the people to know?
Well, that's a great question. No, I think I just want people to understand that I'm not a politician. I never, in my entire life thought that I would, I've never been like, oh, I want to run for public office or I want to be a politician when I grow up. But I've gotten frustrated with what's going on in politics and what's going on in Washington. And I really believe that we need to start moving away from these career politicians. And that's one of the reasons why I've signed the term limit pledge, because I think that, we need new, fresh perspective. We need people that have real life experience and haven't necessarily grown up in politics. because I think that we have a better grasp and understanding of what the people back in our district are struggling with.
No, I agree with you. I think, said the career politicians, like, I mean, you've been in the office for 30, 40 years, and look where we're at right now. Like, look where we're at. Like, it didn't, them being here, you always hear, they say, oh, well, I got to make these compromises, or else if I can't stay in office, if I'm not in office, I can't make a difference. And it's just a constant, it just feels like no one stands on principles anymore. They don't stand for what they stand for, and that drives me crazy. And it sounds like you're one to do that. You're going to be a person that stands on principle, that not taking any money from the donor class, which is huge, because I think that's a major problem. And so it sounds like you're going up there to take on the establishment and hopefully make some friends on both sides of the aisle, and maybe we can get some stuff done.
Who needs friends?
Well, at least get some stuff done.
Yes. There you go. But I want to say thank you so much for joining us, and everybody in the chat. Thank you guys so much for asking the questions. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. I really appreciate it. I want to kind of show you guys what we got going on in the next couple of weeks here. Let's see here. So obviously tonight was Krista Penn. We got Michael McCord, the Democratic nominee. Next week, we got David Dilley from Georgia House District 161. And then DeFonso Daniels, he's another Democrat running for the seat. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming on. And
it's kind of important.
And like I said, Krista, thank you so much for your work. Thank you for your service, not only as a doctor, a seaman, and your husband as a law enforcement. We really appreciate you guys' service, and I really appreciate you guys watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.